This week on the Conscious Creator podcast, I chat with Penrose and Mahlon Head, and just got off this chat with these guys, and I'm still buzzing. We had such a good conversation. They started a brand called Friends of Felix that is based around men's mental health. And, you know, this topic for myself is a very, very near and dear one to my heart. And so is it for these boys. And so it was really great to chat with these guys. And they truly are wise beyond their years. And I love what they're doing with their mission. And so we dove in on everything from, you know, how they met to how they came together on this brand to support men's mental health and why they chose, that area to focus on and donate to as well. And of course, what their efforts are above and beyond just, you know, a portion of their proceeds going to the cause, but what the action steps that they're actually taking. So it was a really good discussion. And again, it, really brightened my day just to have the honor to be in it with these guys. And so I have no doubt that it's going to do the same for you as a listener, to pick up on all the beautiful practices that we talked about that help our mental health and our positive outlook every day. But of course, the normalcy of the struggle and everything that we go through. So I know this is going to brighten your day if you listen to this. So please jump in. Without further ado, enjoy this episode. Okay, we're all in here. So welcome to another episode of the Conscious Creator podcast. First and foremost, everybody listening and tuning in, I always want to say a big thank you. I appreciate it. And you should also thank yourself, because the messages that we deliver are all, based on self-improvement. And so just showing up for yourself today is a big win. And you should always be thankful for that, for tuning in. So much love there. But as we do a tradition on our podcast, is prior to diving into any chats in any episode, is we just do 3 conscious breaths together, because we're all coming from, we're almost midday here. So a lot of these we do, we all have different things going on. So it's good for us to really just center ourselves and make sure that we're present during our chat. So, and for anybody listening or watching, please join us. Unless you're driving, then maybe keep the eyes open. You can do the breath part, but maybe keep the eyes open, however you want to do it. So guys, I'm just going to, we'll just do 3 conscious breaths together in 3, 2, 1. One more big one. Awesome. Just really release any craziness from the morning, anything that's going on. Good. I'm glad. It's become a good part of our chats, and I know it just helps kind of bring us down to earth a little. So again, guys, I want to say for you taking the time out of your day to join us, I really, really appreciate it. I know you guys have, of course, other jobs and a lot going on. And so I truly appreciate the time, and hope you find some value in our discussion as well. But I will tell you how I came across you, and then I'll give a little bit of an introduction. But for anybody listening today, we have Penrose, and then I say it, Mahlon?
Mahlon.
Okay, that's why I asked. I already screwed it up once with Austin.
I get that all the time. No worries, man.
So Mahlon, or Maz, I learned earlier this morning, Head.
There's some that call me Maz. So most call me Mahlon or Maze.
Maze. So it's probably, I screwed it up twice. We're good. We're on a roll here.
No. I don't take it personally whatsoever.
But thanks again for joining us, guys. I know that, the reason, I know that you have other jobs and you're in the digital space, marketing space. Maze, you're a big adventure guy. And, but the reason I had you guys on the podcast is, it was, I don't know how long ago, but I somehow came across your brand on Instagram. And that brand was Happy Dudes at the time. We'll get into that a bit later. But and again, I don't remember how, but I was, I started to look at what you guys were doing. I checked out the website. I looked at your profiles, and I was like, I really dig this because, again, for anyone listening, it's a brand, and I'll let you guys explain, but built around mental health. And so I was a bit excited by it, and then it faded away for me. And then when I was at Island Time over the summer, I saw your booth, and I was like, oh shit. I was with, my wife and a couple friends, and I was like, I got to go buy one of these guys' t-shirts. I just love what they represent and what they're doing. And so that kind of re-inspired to say, okay, well, what are you doing, Mike? Reach out to them. Let's have a deeper chat with these guys. So, actually, one quick question, if you're okay to answer it before we really dive in, but how old are you guys?
We're both 26. Well, I guess Mahlon's technically 25, almost 26, but
yeah.
Cool. I thought you were around there. And so I just want to first give a massive congrats and shout out on that, because for you guys being 26 and having that level of consciousness that you do and taking on a project like this and something that's so intentional, I just want to say that it's amazing, first and foremost. And I look at when I was 26 and I wasn't there. And so, a big part of what I do is wanting to inspire the younger generation, right? And because I look at myself in the university days and things like that, and even traveling, and I was like, man, I wish I was more conscious and just a bit more present in what I was doing. But I'll be honest, I was a typical dude, drinking and chasing girls and adventure. And, parts of that is good, but the many conversations I don't remember and things like that, I wish I was a little bit more present. So really applaud you guys for this mission and what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Let's start, I guess. How did you guys meet?
Through school, honestly. Like back, we both went to UBCO. We were in the same program there. Just a few mutual friends, really. And I mean, we were friends, but we weren't like too close, I think, in school. And we started working together actually, what was it, 2 years ago-ish?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was like
something like that.
We were in the same program at school, and we'd see each other every day, but yeah, like Austin said, wouldn't hang out all the time. And then I guess a year and a half after we graduated, then I was working at, this company here in town, and then Austin got hired on as well. And it was during the COVID times where we were all working from home. So we'd find ourselves, we were in the same role, and we'd find ourselves video chatting for I don't know, hours a day. And we just, became really good friends through that.
Very cool. So you haven't known each other even that long?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, we both finished school, 2019, I guess now. So we're graduated for, I guess, 3 years now. Or does that add up? No. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
That, 3,
now 4. That you think of
we won't do the math. Don't worry.
No. Yeah, time flies the past couple of years. But not too long, I guess.
I love it. Well, that's awesome. I think people don't come across each other by accident. There's no coincidences in life, in my opinion. And so, however that interaction ended up getting deeper and those chats getting deeper were obviously meant to be. And that leads to kind of my next question, of course. And a big one is, and I'll let you lead, because I'm sure you both have your own kind of versions of the story. But how did Happy Dudes, now Friends of Felix, come to be? What was the inspiration, and then when did you guys come together on that piece?
Mm-hmm. So I mean, the inspiration for myself, I've always been interested in e-commerce, kind of working in the digital space, clothing brands, and I knew I always wanted to kind of create a brand, but I didn't just want to have a brand to have a brand, and it just be a kind of every clothing brand that you see like pop up every once in a while on Instagram, where it's just something similar, cut and paste. Wanted to be able to kind of associate a certain cause that would give me some motivation to kind of work on it, rather than just for the chance of making some money online, right? Like I wanted it to be a little bit more motivational than that. So obviously mental health is something that's surrounded my life just because of my involvement in sports. Like sports and mental health kind of go hand in hand a lot of the time. And just some of the things that I've seen in others, kind of around me and in the different teams and sports that I've played on, that kind of really shaped the interest in the mental health side of things, especially within guys, because I mean, it's less talked about and people just kind of hide it away, pack it up. So that's where the kind of, I guess, inspiration for myself came. Then approached Mahlon because I knew he was interested in starting something along the lines of a clothing brand as well too, and figuring that out. I think initially he was like looking into some more of the extreme sports routes with like biking and stuff like that. He was thinking about seeing what he could do in that space. But then I mentioned to him this brand, and mental health is something that's shaped Mahlon's life, and he can talk on that as much as he wants. But we just thought it would make sense. Two heads is better than one in this case, and we were both kind of passionate about the idea. So that's the birth of it, really.
No, that's awesome. And I think it's, I do, again, the reason I was inspired to have you guys on is because it's affected my life in a big way as well. I have, one of my brothers is bipolar, and, he didn't know that until late in life. So growing up with a big brother that honestly, sadly, a lot of the time I felt like the big brother, going through it. And of course, many stories and journeys along that of, potential suicides, of hospitalizations, of me going to knock on his apartment door, because I was asked to see if he's alive, things like that, and that's just one example in my life that it's happened. And thankfully he's doing great today, but, it can be 6 months at a time. It's, I get the call, or I reach out and notice the slurring words, and love them to death. And I know it's a disease. And so it's an ongoing battle. And so I think that's one big piece to it. And the other is you brought it up. It's that conversation around men and what a man should be, right? And how a man should feel, and what we should and shouldn't talk about. And that's a big part of the coaching that I do, is I really try to lean into, vulnerability with men, and show that it's okay for us to be vulnerable. It's okay for us to cry. It's okay for us to feel a certain way. And there's strength in that, and it creates bonds. And, but as we were shaped growing up, society tells a different story, right? We're told to be tough. We're told to suck it up. We're told to, or as you get a family, be strong for your family, right? And so these are a lot of stories is what they are, and that's it, right? But they do shape a lot of us. And so it's time to kind of break those walls down, I feel, and really support one another and open up these conversations and go deep on them. And really talk about what's at the core and the things we've been through, and the things, because we're not alone, and once you start to have those conversations and you step into that space, you open it up for others. Right. And so it's just for those of us that have the courage to do that and step forward and know that, it's okay to shed a tear. It's okay to dive deep. And, again, it's new in my life as well. It's taken me 37 years, to get to this space. And now again, we did our first men's retreat in June, and we had 10 guys in a room that were crying by midnight, just sitting there talking. And the bulk of us had just met each other. But, it was through reflection questions and things we pulled out in the safe space that we created that we were able to do that. So I think it's really, really important. But sorry, I kind of took your space there.
Perfect. That was perfect, honestly.
It's just such an important topic today. So, Mahlon, I'll let you kind of tell your side of how you guys came together and your inspiration for it all as well.
Sure. Well, when you were talking there, I was thinking, we should just hire you to explain why we're here and what we're all about in terms of men's mental health, because you couldn't have said it. It couldn't have been said any better than how you just went over it. And I guess in terms of how, in terms of what my motivation was to get started, similar to Austin's on the business side, where I wanted to start my own business, but do something that I really truly care about. And post graduation, I was working for, I don't know, a year. And it was during this time in my life and my family's life where we were going through quite a bit. My mom, she passed away in January 2021 of due to mental illness. It was a long battle, and about, I don't know, 10 to 14 years where it was more prevalent and something that my family dealt with on the daily. So when you spoke to the experiences that you have with your brother, and I'm sure your family and close ones to your brother have with him in terms of, going to do checkups and getting phone calls and all of these things, I experienced something so similar. So, I'm sure we can have definitely another conversation on that at some point, but where I guess a lot of the motivation from was realizing that I'm going through these difficult times, my family's going through these difficult times. There's not a chance that other people aren't going through the same thing. And I know they are. And through the even the high level conversations that I had with people, close family and friends, they had struggles of their own. And those conversations wouldn't have happened unless we were being vulnerable with each other. And not saying that I'm the pinnacle of being vulnerable, because there's days where I feel like being more vulnerable, more open. And there's definitely days where I just want to shut down and not talk to anyone. And I guess through through the process of growing up and gaining more experience through hardships is where I realized the need to open up and have those conversations. And I definitely wasn't good at it early on. But after my mom passed away, I found a lot of value in counseling and found that, although I did through a lot of my own difficulties, it was just as easy to not have to go to counseling and not have to talk to someone, because you can either do it or you can just, go the easy route and just block it off essentially
totally.
in your mind,
Yep.
And so that's something that I was really conscious of trying to improve and make an effort to, speak with other people, because it not only helps my mental well-being, but I'm sure it makes an impact on them as well. So even if it's a high level conversation, and, there's so much value in that. And, this is around the same time, I guess, swinging back to how Austin and I got to be such good buddies. As we started spending more time together was around the time where my mom passed away. And Austin was a dude who I would speak to almost every day for hours on end. And I don't know, I think it created quite a special bond between us. And I found a lot of comfort in just hanging out with him and talking with him, because I felt I could be so open with the guy. He's an absolute legend. So, I think that's, where a lot of my motivation comes from. And as Austin and I were, discussing, what kind of business we can start and what we really care about, we kind of together landed on the idea of the men's mental health specifically, because of what you just mentioned, because men aren't typically the ones who are opening up to their friends about how they're doing, their emotions, the crappy times they're experiencing, all these things that, in general, women are a lot more open to discussing with their friends and close ones, or just strangers, to be honest. So that's where our goal, really is moving towards, is just making dudes more comfortable with being open or having a simple conversation. So I guess Happy Dude, if I want to tie it into there, that's where we kind of came up with the name. We wanted to have something originally simple that, you're wearing a t-shirt that says, what does it say? Vibrational visionary. Like, that's so cool. So I want to ask you about that. It was kind of a similar thing where we were like, okay, if someone's wearing a Happy Dude shirt, there's a good chance like someone, if I was walking in the street and I saw someone wearing a Happy Dude shirt, I think, I'd be like, oh, what is that? Like, it could spark that conversation. Even if it's a high level conversation, what shirt is that? Oh, it's Happy Dude. They support men's mental health. Even if it doesn't do, that justice, like, it still sparks a conversation of, oh, what's that? Or they see it again. They see it again. so that's where the original name came from. We obviously have a lot of learnings, and we screwed up quite a bit, but that's all part of the process, and that's a whole nother topic. But I guess to round this out, that's where it came from, and there's no shortage of motivation to make a positive impact on even one person's life, whether it's a guy or a girl, of course. We just thought that our work could to speak more, and helping them out specifically.
No, I love that. It's very powerful, and again, I think there's a few pieces to that that I picked up on. And again, one not to pick at the age thing, but in the age you guys are in, and just coming out of university and into the work world, generally as males, again, we compare ourselves a lot, right? And we care what people think. And I think this is a topic that is a challenging one, and it takes a lot of courage to have these conversations and step forward, especially at my age, never mind the age. I'll tell you that I've had a lot of people become pretty quiet around me with stepping into this space. And there's a reason for that. It's because it makes them think. Right? It's because they're thinking about the things that they see, and it might trigger something in them. It might, relate to an experience that they've had. But at the end of the day, those are positive things, right? And as you guys go on this journey, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is as you grow and you learn, we can't think about others' opinions. You have to be set on your mission like you are, and drive forward. Right? Because we can have people even close to us that become a bit funny when we step into spaces like this. Right? And it's really know in your heart of hearts what your mission is, and you drive forward. And so that's amazing. And yeah, this t-shirt, I do make shirts as well. And so I have about 5 or 6 different sayings, but I love when you were describing, your kind of vision. That was the exact same with mine when I created these shirts and the amount they get commented on when I'm out and about doing things is amazing, because again, it's making people think, right? It truly is vibrational, visionary. Like what's that mean? What is it? Right. And then when they really go down that, of course I have a conscious creator one and some different ones, but, that's it. And then when I send these out to people, who purchase them, it comes with a thing that says, the care that went into them. And then, of course, when you put it on, it's not just the shirt. You're believing what you're wearing and you're embodying it. So I love, and I have a confession to make on your guys' shirt, because I actually wanted to wear it today, but it's in the wash. I'm looking through this morning, and I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm not putting on a wrinkly shirt. So we're putting on one of my own. So
fair enough. Well, it looks
great. Thanks. But yeah, so I loved the description of that. And sorry to hear about your mom. I can imagine that was an absolutely challenging journey, and I'm sure every day is. But I'm sure you found some wonderful pieces to that as well. And through anything we experience, it's looking for whatever messages we can find within, and look at where it's inspired you, the mission that you guys are on now, right? And it's I love it. It's great. So tell me a little bit about I mean, let's chat a bit about the name change for a sec, because I love it. I watched it all unfold, of course, on social media and stuff, and of course it's as we go into things like this, our own businesses, right? There's so much to learn always. But so tell me a little bit about that journey for a moment.
Yeah. I mean, I can start off your mailing if you want, and you can chime in with any details I miss. But
we're gonna say journey is a good way to call it.
Yeah, for sure. It more so started just with honestly an email, just letting us know that, hey, like, by the way, this is something that I've been trademarked here in Canada. As newer, I guess, business owners within that space, it was obviously something we overlooked a little bit. We looked through BC registries, stuff like that. checked it. We're like, okay, like there's no Happy Dude here. Like we're good to go. And we kind of a little bit naive in that sense, thinking that like, I guess everything would obviously like databases and stuff would like feed into each other. So we thought we were good to go. We're like, all right, let's roll with this. Obviously got everything registered, went like super official with things. Yeah. And then I guess like a few months in, obviously after a few launches of ours, a few restocks and whatnot, just got a simple email. The person who owned the trademark, I mean, he was pretty nice about it. At the end of the day, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I guess we could have just taken legal action right away if he really wanted to. So just gave us a time period basically where we can get our ducks in a row, so to speak, and figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this thing? Which is when I guess the name generation process started again, which is always one of the most annoying processes of doing a new business, is figuring out like, I don't just want to name it something just to name it something, right? Like it's going to obviously stick for a while. So as you can imagine, a lot of Zoom calls back and forth and Word documents with hundreds of just absolutely awful names when you really come down to it.
Overthinking it probably 200 times. And yeah.
A few ones were like, okay, this is it. And a couple of days later, like, oh, this is not it. And then like just the cycle kept going. We obviously ended on Friends of Felix, which is where we're at now. The same kind of thought process went behind it. Is we wanted something that was like brandable in a sense, but also gets people thinking again, like, oh, what is that? Like, what is Friends of Felix? Like, what does that mean? So it still kind of carried that same goal, I guess you could say, with what the Happy Dude name had originally. And yeah, we landed on Friends of Felix. A little bit of research gone into it too. We know like the Friends of Dorothy was a name that we obviously wanted to address, and that being a huge tie within the community. So reached out to people within the community within Kelowna, reached out to people, a community that we knew in Vancouver, and they thought it was something that was, I mean, still very, very appropriate. We just didn't want to step on anyone's toes, essentially, with a new name and coming off in a wrong way. But yeah, it was super well received by some of the people we talked to. So kind of looked at each other and I was like, all right, this is, I think, something that we can roll with. Plus it, I think it, like the meaning behind it too, and Mahlon, if you want, you can touch into this, but Felix it's not just a name. It is actually like Latin for happy, joyous, lucky, and kind of the things that like we embody, like kind of just looking at life, like we're lucky to experience what we experience. We're joyful for being able to kind of live every single day. And then just tying that in with a human name was like really something that we wanted to connect with people and make it really accessible, rather than just kind of like a couple of random words that were associated to the mental health space and the men's side of things. So,
well, that's awesome.
That's it.
And honestly, it sounds like the new name, and it is catchy. I would agree, and it does make you think, and it flows, and so it almost sounds like, you know, the universe forced you guys a little bit to put more thought into it and to really lean into that, and obviously with that story you just told and the meaning behind it, you did, right? And it's that's awesome. So how's the Mahlon, I don't know if you want to add anything to that before I go on, but
I kind of got flashbacks when Austin was talking about it to the morning that we woke up to this email, and I don't know, 6 or 7 in the morning, I get the email. I was like, oh, this, you know, like kind of half sleepy, check your phone. Right away, I get a text from Austin. We're like, oh my God, this cannot be real right now. So I guess just I wanted to add, from the moment that we got that email to I guess where we're at now, it's been an absolute crazy roller coaster of emotions, from moments of, you know, the highs of, you know, having so much motivation to write or to generate so many cool name ideas and, you know, pivot on what we have created and, you know, modify what we want to change, to the absolute lows of just typing in random name generator on Google and just bashing your head on the keyboard. So the process of the last few months have been, like I said, a lot of highs and lows, but you know, land on this name, and it has a strong meaning to what we're still all about, is really exciting.
Well, that's awesome. No, it's all a journey, right? And you guys are just getting started. I'm sure you're going to have many more of those occasions where it's like all you can do is laugh. All you can do is laugh and then take the first step to go with it. a neat book for you guys. Actually, I'm just on the tail end of reading it, but it's a really cool one with if you're starting a business and leaning into it. It's called The Surrender Experiment. If you haven't read it, but it's a really neat one. Yeah, by Michael Singer. It's I think you'll enjoy it. It's an interesting read. It's not that long, but it really allows you to just kind of surrender what's happening throughout the process, the highs and the lows, right? And but that leads me to my next kind of piece is can you talk about a little bit about the grander vision for Friends of Felix now? Are you gonna stay with t-shirts and that messaging? Are there other components to the business that are going to arrive? Have you thought that far ahead? Kind of walk me into that space a little bit.
Yeah, go for it, Mahlon. You can kick this one off.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't even know where to start with this. To start off, obviously we're doing the simple t-shirts, the hoodies, and kind of, leisurely like streetwear inspired brand. Primarily selling clothes. That's the goal. That's how we're gonna make money and make a bigger impact on people's lives, right? So 10% of our profits are donated to a men's specific charity called Heads Up Guys. And, that is the short-term goal where we operate and, grow the community and continue to make an impact. However, our, longer term goals, they're not too clear yet. And I know Austin can touch on this after me, but a big part of it is us wanting to give men the access to the help that they need. And, there's one side of it is, men just being able to need to speak with other people, right? But some men, we're lucky in the fact that we have access to these therapists or good friends or, sports to be preventative in our mental health or whatever it may be. But there's a lot of people out there who don't have access to these resources. So we want to tap into the ability to, directly fund, resources for men who can't necessarily, reach it directly through a fund of our own. But right now it's totally an idea and just a bigger goal and pretty, undefined at the moment. But that's where we want to go. And Austin, you can speak to the other stuff that we want to do.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're a clothing brand. We sell clothes, we donate some of our proceeds, that's all great. But I think the biggest thing for me is Mahlon said, really making an impact first through conversation, through talking with people, right? Because sure, we can donate as much money as we want to these different organizations, different causes, different charities, but it still doesn't really solve the problem of people accessing that, right? It's getting people into the doors, connected with the right people, systems in place, right? And Mahlon and I aren't by any means qualified to be talking to anyone on a professional level about mental health and all that stuff, right? So we want to be there to kind of essentially bridge that gap for people, get them to where they need to be. Long-term vision, I see us being able to host workshops at universities, talk to people at a younger age, really kind of get them to understand okay, this is something that's important. It's just as important as going to the gym and working out for your health. It's just as important as going for a run. There's so much really to, I guess, unpack with it, right? And we just want to be there to be a little bit bigger than a clothing brand in the long-term side of things. And just connect, honestly. I think that's the best word for it, is to be able to connect with as many people as possible and impact them through whatever shape and form that looks like in their life, because it's going to be different from person to person. So
yeah, well, you've taken the first step and that's it. It's going to grow around that, right? I'm sure it's, the vision's going to change. What actually comes to fruition is going to change. But I love that. And I agree wholeheartedly. That's exactly kind of, what needs to happen. And I love that you bring up therapy and counseling too, because there's such a stigma around that, and that needs to stop too, right? Whether it's even between a husband and a wife going to therapy, or an individual choosing to go go to therapy. It doesn't always need to be, only when I'm in trouble. It can be a proactive piece that, I'm just not feeling right. Maybe I should go speak this stuff out loud because they don't feel they have that person to go to, right? And another piece to that is how important it is that you guys have each other, again, because that's a rare relationship. It is. And in our younger years as well, especially when you get into your 30s, again, it's not defined by age, but when you're maybe not playing on a sports team anymore, not going to school anymore. Look at us, we're at home offices, right? So where's your interaction with other males, really? The friends that you have, right? So if you're in a space that you've grown up just having drinking buddies or just people that you're really not breaking that surface level barrier with, it becomes a lot more challenging, right? And it takes courage to have, if you do have other males in your life that you have relationships with, but are very surface level. Maybe you hang out and you play ball, you play on a frisbee team, whatever. But to go a little bit further and ask that question of, no, really, like, how are you? Not the how you doing, not the high five, but seriously, how are you? You've seemed a little quiet lately. To take that extra step, I think is so important. And I can speak to actually the podcast I'm launching, that'll be launching today, as to today's date, is with a friend of mine that I created that with. He was strolling down our street here, neighborhood, with his two kids and a beer in his hand. And, we were both at a stage in our lives, very busy with multiple jobs and businesses and kids and everything. And, we started to chat a little bit deeper, and we were able to create that. But it's funny, we look at it quite often to say most people don't take that step, right? So I think you nailed it with just finding ways to open up the conversation more. And I think the even the university age is also such an amazing age to do that at, if you can really penetrate that, because we all know what we were like then, and it was massive egos, right? It was being cool, and it was everything you thought was, what is someone else thinking, right? And so I think that's such an important space to try to get the messages into, because behind the scenes there's a lot of people struggling because they don't feel comfortable showing their true selves, right? I do feel during the last couple of years, there's been a bit of an awakening across the world, and in some ways, quite the opposite, a darkening, right? Some people with the loneliness kind of went the other way, and other people started to question things a little more. But what do you guys do? And I'll start, Mahlon, I'll start with you. Is what do you do in your daily or weekly practice to try to keep your mental health strong? To really stay positive. Do you have practices there? Is that a space you're still? Well, it's always developing, but are there certain things that you have built into your routine that you do to keep you light and bright?
Totally, there is. And Austin could probably answer this on my behalf for me. Mine's quite simple. Since I was really young, I was not able to sit still. I still can't sit still for very long. And my outlet consistently is being active, whether that's biking, running, skiing, going for a walk, even sometimes as simple as that. Anything to get my body moving has a positive impact on my mind. And I've, experienced times where I haven't been as active, and I noticed that my mood is so much lower than it should be. And, even if I have been really active and I'm having a crappy day for some reason, I'll make a conscious effort to move my body in some way. I know it's different for everyone, but I'm also so confident that it's such a good way for everyone to improve their mental health in some way, or just, as a quick mood booster. That's primarily the main way I do it. But another big thing is being social and not locking myself away, so to speak. I've, through my experiences and seeing how lonely other people were in my life, and realizing that loneliness can kill you. I try not to be lonely. Obviously, there's times where I want to be alone and just spend time by myself, but I find a lot of value in just having conversations with other people and surrounding myself with people I like to be around. Yeah, it's so important to me. So yeah, I'd say those are the two main ones for myself.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I can relate massively because I've been very similar in my life. But before we move on to Austin, I do have a challenge for you. Okay, because that's your path. Is I challenge you to work on becoming comfortable solo by trying to work in even a 5-minute meditation in your morning or your evening, something like that. And it can be completely uncomfortable for you at first. It always is. Trust me, I have my own story, and there's a reason why I'm a little bit more calm these days. But it's because of what you said, especially. You're not wrong, right? People get very lonely when they're by themselves, but that's why it's so important to become comfortable with yourself and being able to sit in silence. And so I challenge you to try to find a practice that you can maybe say, I'll choose 14 days, whatever you want to do. Or if you want something behind the scenes, we can chat and I can give you some fun stuff. But it's so important to find that space. And when you find that space, you'll also find even more energy when you're out and doing other things. But it allows for when that, when the highs become lows and they calm down, you're comfortable. You're in a happy place because you love yourself, right? And you become your own best friend. But so I just felt called to kind of challenge you on that a little bit.
No, I love that. I'm super keen for that.
Awesome.
Something that I also wanted to touch on when I was mentioning it, although I do use physical activity to maintain, a good mental space, there's also been times in my life where I've used it too much, to use it as an escape from being alone in my mind, I would say. These are during tougher times when I was dealing with a lot that I didn't even realize what was going on, and all the stuff that was happening, within my family. Those tough times I would totally use going for a 20K run just to push myself as hard as I can and not think about anything else other than I'm in pain. And just using that as escape can be good, but there's a fine balance, like everything in life. There's a good balance where you need to, understand that you can't use it for just to block something else out. And that's something that I'm still learning today because, it is a fine line.
There's worse habits you can have to try to push things out and forget things. I'll tell you that for sure.
That's true.
But being by yourself is one of the hardest challenges humans have, right? But it does start with it's learning to love ourselves, right? And when you truly love yourself, then you can sit with yourself because you can have those conversations and they don't go to a certain place, right? So it's a balance, it's a dance. And because I can tell you, I had a good few injuries in my life because that was my outlet for a long time, and still is. I still love extreme sports. I'm a super active guy, but the universe told me a couple times to slow down.
Yep. Oh yes. I'm sure you've had some similar injuries in that sense.
If you don't listen, it'll tell you again and again.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Austin, what are some of the things that kind of help aid your mental health and positive outlook every day?
If I'm being honest, I'm still trying to find obviously what I like best when it comes to doing stuff like that. I have done the fitness route, kind of going to the gym. I've done the kind of obviously hanging out with friends, just going outside, getting fresh air. I've tried a bunch of different things. And it's not I don't think I've necessarily found a way where I'm okay, this is definitely something that I really love to do, right? That excites me. So like I would try a bunch of different things, like hanging out with friends. It's more of like I think just the way I try to live my life rather than like, oh, this is an activity that I'm going to do to kind of like better myself in this exact moment or whatever it is, or keep my mind in check. So it's more of like a combination of things. Something that I noticed like recently, at least, has been like a simple change is really breathing. Just like I've heard it like all the time for years, if I'm being honest with you, like all the way back to when I used to play basketball and working with like sports psychologists and stuff. Like breathing was always something they touched on like every single time. And it's like, I used to brush it aside. I was like, okay, it's breathing. Like, what's that going to do for me? Like, it's not going to do anything, right? For years, like I thought that, right? And it was only recently where like I think I started to take on a little bit more work. Obviously, starting up Friends of Felix / Happy Dude, like just putting more on my plate and like being a little bit more busy with my time rather than kind of just having a lot more free time to play with is when I started to feel like a little bit more stressed, a little bit more kind of anxious for whatever reason. And it was a feeling like I wasn't really used to feeling too much. So I kind of worked back and I was like, all right, like let's try out Headspace. Let's try out Calm. These more like kind of breathing meditation apps and just like noticing when you feel this way and like taking like literally 3 big breaths like we did at the beginning of this podcast. It changed, like I could noticeably feel like a little bit different in the moments like right after that versus the moments that I started before it. So that's something that I've been kind of experimenting with more and more throughout my day. Like if things start to stress me out a little bit, if things start to kind of frustrate me for whatever reason, right? Just like breathing and sometimes just getting up and walking away from it, doing something else, like changing kind of my setting, like where I am, whether it's inside, outside, just like little things like that, and kind of being a little bit mindful, I guess, of what is causing the stress and like, why am I feeling like this? Asking why is a kind of a big question that I always try to figure out. Okay, like, why am I overwhelmed right now? Like, why am I feeling crappy about this? And just kind of like that self-talk aspect of things is really kind of helped me figure out, okay, like this is what's causing that and this is how I can try to fix it. Does it happen and work every single time? No, definitely not. But it's, I think just the mindfulness aspect of it is something that I've been just more conscious about and just thinking about like why I'm feeling a certain way. And it sounds simple, but it's something that I brushed off for a long time until I started actually thinking, okay, these people probably know a little bit better what they're talking about than I do. So let's give it a chance here. So
yeah. Well, honestly, you nailed like 2 very big pieces, and you can say they're simple, but the majority of people don't do them. And, you know, a huge one is mindfulness and being conscious. And when you get in those, you know, situations of stress of anything, is simply being able to step outside of that moment and observe and ask why. It's huge. Most people are reactive and get caught up and don't ask, right? And they just keep going through the motions, and that's when things can spiral and you stay in that space. But just asking the question is you're interrupting that pattern. And now, you know, if you were frustrated, generally it's already gone because you've stopped the frustration to simply ask a question, right? So I think that's massive. And yes, it's small, but it's a huge win. And the fact that you're already there is awesome. And breath, you're speaking my language. I'm a breathwork facilitator, and you know, through and through, it's the power of the breath and the simplicity of it again is incredible. You know, I'm only a year into that journey, so I've yet lot to learn. But from what I've seen, it's absolutely hands down, you know, as simple as you say, if you can sit there and do 10 breaths, you know, your nervous system just calms down, right? And so it's, those are amazing tools, and it's just, you know, working them into your everyday and becoming conscious of them every day. And as you say, it's, you know, diagnosing is really important too. If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, any of that stuff, it's kind of like, okay, have I done this today? Have I done this today? You know, and then again, you're pulling yourself out of the pattern and kind of being able to do that. So those are awesome. Those are great tools, guys.
Yeah, no, it's helped with the, I was going to say, I feel like Mahlon's going to ask the same question I'm going to ask, so go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, what do you do? I'm curious.
I have a lot of habits these days, but you guys named a couple of them for sure. You know, I'm an early riser because I have two young kids that are 3 and 4. And so I don't have, you know, private time if I don't wake up at 5. And that's just become a habit for me. That was hard to create. But my big ones are meditation and breath work. Are big ones. I'll tell you, I meditate for 5 minutes before every single podcast. I play Xavier Rudd. We deserve to dream every single time, and I light some sage. And you know, so it's that's a big one for me. And meditation is fucking hard. Okay, everybody thinks it's going to be easy. It's not. I have a very, very busy mind. I have multiple businesses and all these stuff and kids and, you know, my wife making plans, and I love all of it. It's, you know, but of course, if you don't, you're not going to be able to calm your mind right away. And nor do you have to. Everybody overthinks it. You know, just get in the space of closing your eyes, taking some breath, and observe the things that are coming in and let them pass. Right? It's everybody thinks you got to become a Zen master and there has to be nothing in there when you sit down. It's so far out wrong. It's just like allow things to flow. So anyways, I'm getting off track because I'm passionate about it all, but
no, these are great.
Those
is what it's all about.
Those are big ones for me. Is I get up early. Generally I walk in my backyard barefoot, my feet on the earth. I find the sun in between the trees. I get sun on my face. Those are big pieces for me too. It just grounds me in nature, which nature's free. Everybody has access to it. And so those are my big ones. Reading's a huge one for me too. I read like a machine these days, and it's not for everybody, but most of the stuff I read is, you know, self-help development stuff. I've become a bit obsessed with it. Yeah. So those are my big ones that I and then the gym for sure. You know, is moving the blood, getting everything moving. And so between breath, meditation, reading and that, and then, journaling too, which I'm not perfect at. You know, that could happen 1 every 4 days. Sometimes I'll do a couple days in a row, but I do find that as a very, very good practice to get in, is reflecting and journaling. Just being able to take what's in here and bring it into our world and put it on paper. You know, whether it's positive or negative, allows you to process and release it. So, yeah, those are
just. I want to touch on one thing too that, like, I don't want to take up too much time and move on to the next topic, but like, what I think people who are listening to like get out of this is, at the end of the day, like, anything can really be a release for you. Like, if it's taking yourself out to dinner, if it's going thrift shopping on a Sunday, if it is. Like, I think the biggest thing that I want to like try and just let people know is like, you don't have to fall into these boxes where like, oh, you need to go get exercise for a release, because some people won't find it there. Right. And it's all about trial and error. It's all about figuring out, okay, this is what makes me happy. And it makes me forget about other stuff that is stressing me out, other stuff that is kind of on my mind. And it allows me for just having some me time. Then that's what you should focus on, right? Like, as long as it's, healthy towards your body, right? And it's not like destructive in terms of just destructing yourself and making things worse, then at the end of the day, like, that's your release, and so be it. It's not going to be the same thing for everyone else. So
absolutely, you know, and that's a great point. It's you know, we can't define these things because you're right. Everybody's different, and you know, something is going to peak for somebody else where it doesn't for us, and also that it's not going to be perfect the first time or probably ever. Right? But people think it has to feel perfect. It's like, you know, the first time did we go to the gym, how sore were you afterwards? Wow, this sucks. I never want to do it again. Right? Anything you do, it takes time to get there. And so that's so important. One habit I changed, I don't know how long ago now, but you know, with social media being so powerful these days, and yes, we try to reduce our time, but let's be real. We all scroll from time to time, right? Is really filtering that lens on our socials. You know, do we have these super weird things that come in that might make us laugh from time to time? Do we have complainers on our threads? People that put out negative stuff? News? You know, if they're always delivering stabbings and this and that, I got rid of those things. And I started to follow inspirational people, and I started to follow things that fire me up. You know, not these dudes from high school that are complaining about XYZ, and it actually hits me here. And I'm like, whoa, why am I allowing that to even bother me?
That's a good point,
really just kind of going through my stuff over a long period of time and filtering it, because then the things I'm seeing when I jump in there for whatever reason are positive, are inspirational, are right. And that's the same with the people in our lives that we allow to affect our lives, positive or negative. Right. So, but these are all little practices that take a long time to build up, and we, brick by brick.
Yeah. Not overnight. That's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, I know we're getting to top of the hour, and I know you have busy days, so I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do have 2 token questions I ask everybody at the end. So this is good today because I'm going to get double the answers. So you guys can rock, paper, scissors, however you want, who goes first. But the first one is, because this is called the Conscious Creator Podcast, and there's no right answer to this, so don't get stressed out. Just throw whatever comes to mind. Okay. It can be short, can be long, doesn't matter. But what is your personal definition of a conscious creator, and maybe how it relates to your life and how you lead your life?
I can fire it up. Let's do it. The first thing that comes to my mind is just being present, honestly. Like when I hear conscious creator, it's just being present in what you're doing and just knowing your why, realistically. Like, why are you, like, what are you doing this for? Is it for yourself? Is it for others in your life? Is it for whoever it may be? Knowing your why and just being present is something that kind of resonates with me. So
it's a great answer. I love it.
I think conscious creator for me means being aware of what you're doing and what you're making and the stuff that you're working on. But for some reason, it also means doing something and working towards something that you truly care about, which ultimately is many people's goal, is to, you can work for someone else on something you don't care about as much, but I think what a lot of us are seeking is to make a difference in the world on something that we truly, truly care about.
Great answer. But I would disagree on a lot of us are looking to make change in the world. I wish that were true, but I think we're unique individuals. There's not enough of us, but I love that you pointed it out. And then one more is, if you were to give yourself one piece of advice, your younger self, excuse me, is the important part there, but with the knowledge that you have today, and you can go to yourself at any age, but what is that piece of advice you might give yourself at one stage in your life, with the wisdom and knowledge you have today?
Yeah, I know mine's pretty easy. So Malin, if you want to go for it, go have a stab at it.
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give myself when I was younger is to always remember that every experience presents itself with an opportunity to learn, whether it's positive or negative. You're always going to come out of experiences with more knowledge that you had before you went into them. And, whether it was good or bad, and no matter the outcome, you'll be more aware of it for, things that you can deal with in the future. And I guess just to touch on that, there will be a lot of bad experiences, but those will turn into positives down the road for you. I guarantee it.
Amazing. Love that.
Mine's no one cares as much as you think. Like, that was something, like, obviously always, as any young person in the world, really, there's so much of the kind of, what is someone going to think of this? What is someone going to think of that? Like, is this going to make me seem X, Y, Z? Just like self-confidence, really. And at the end of the day, like, when you look back on it, you're like, no one cares. Like, what am I? And it happens today, even too. Like, that's advice that I give myself yesterday, right? Like, it's something that I constantly have to tell myself. And if you want to do something, go for it. Like,
But do it because you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And shouldn't be anyone else's decision. It shouldn't be anyone else's influence. I mean, unless you appreciate their influence, obviously. But yeah, no one cares as much as you think.
That's huge. I love that. Thank you for pulling that one out, because that's one that from young to, that one's timeless.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And it is, as you say, I think it is a constant reminder for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Well, before we go, where can people follow you guys? Where can they keep on your journey? Websites, socials, whatever you feel called to kind of put forth that people can follow the journey, please do.
Yeah, I mean, our website is pretty simple, just friendsoffelix.com. Right now it's not open, obviously, because we don't have any clothes to sell yet, but you can
coming
hop on
soon.
there. Yeah, toss your email address in. We'll be the first ones to know, just be part of the community itself. And then Instagram is just Friends of Felix brand on Instagram. So those are the best places to reach us, like DMs. If you want to hop on our DMs and send us a message, have a chat, they're always open. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for lending your time today. I'm so grateful that you decided to jump on. I think we had an amazing chat. And honestly, if there's anything I can do to support you that you think about now or after this chat, please don't hesitate to reach out, because I love the mission that you guys have and what you're doing. So really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it. This is actually our first podcast, so hopefully the first of many. And we're grateful as well for you taking the time to chat with us and our journey as we continue forward, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it was an honor. Thanks, guys.
Sweet. Appreciate you, Mike.
If today's episode resonated with you in any way, or you feel it added value to your day, please feel free to share it with friends. And of course, link and subscribe so that you can be alerted for future episodes. We sincerely appreciate you watching, and always remember to learn, laugh, and love. Until next time.